Welcome to the Pardes channel. Today we explain Genesis chapter 49 in a clear and simple way, step by step.
We're going to take a really close look at a profoundly important moment in biblical history. Picture this. A father, Jacob, is nearing the end of his life in Egypt, and he gathers his 12 sons around his deathbed. We're going to focus strictly on the clear, simple meaning of the original Hebrew text, what we call the pashhat. So there won't be any complicated symbolism or hidden mysticism today. We're just looking at the direct, straightforward message this patriarch had for his family. You know, this chapter is essentially Jacob's last will and testament, but it's also a prophetic roadmap that lays out the future for what will eventually become the 12 tribes of Israel. It's an absolutely vital chapter for understanding the rest of the Tanakh.
Here is our agenda for today. First, context and chapter introduction. Second, the first 4 sons. Third, the middle 6 sons. Fourth, Joseph and Benjamin. Fifth, Jacob's death and burial. And finally, number 6, lessons and chapter recap. By the time we finish this walkthrough, you're going to have a rock-solid, structured understanding of exactly what unfolds in this pivotal chapter.
Section 1. Context and chapter introduction. Let's set the stage for Jacob's final gathering.
Jacob has lived a remarkably long and incredibly challenging life. He's survived exile, famine, and the heartbreaking loss and amazing recovery of his beloved son Joseph. Now, living in the land of Egypt, he knows with absolute certainty that his time is drawing to a close. So he calls his sons together. The text starts with Jacob saying, "Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the end of days. Assemble yourselves, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father." He's speaking both as their dad, Jacob, and as Israel, the patriarch of a future nation. He's demanding their absolute, undivided attention. Now you might be wondering about that phrase, "in the end of days." In Hebrew, that's acherit hayamim. It doesn't necessarily mean some apocalyptic end-of-the-world event here. In the simple meaning of the text, he's just talking about the future destiny of their descendants when they finally return to and settle the Promised Land. He's looking far ahead into their history.
Section 2. The first 4 sons. We begin with Leah's oldest sons, moving in strict birth order.
We start with Reuben, the firstborn. Jacob says to him, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength. By all rights, the excellency of dignity and power, the ultimate leadership, should totally be his." But then comes a pretty devastating pivot. Jacob calls him unstable as water, meaning he's turbulent and lacks self-discipline. Because of this, Jacob declares, "You will no longer excel." Why? Well, because as the text says, Reuben went up onto his father's bed. This refers directly back to the incident in Genesis 35, where Reuben defiled his father's bed by sleeping with Bilhah, Jacob's concubine. That one impulsive act, that profound lack of discipline, actually cost Reuben the ultimate birthright. The leadership of the family is permanently stripped from him.
Next up are Simeon and Levi. Jacob links these 2 brothers together, and he fiercely curses their anger. He says, "Simeon and Levi are brethren, weapons of violence their kinship. Let my soul not come into their counsel, for in their anger they slew men." He's talking directly about their cruel, violent retaliation in the city of Shechem, where they hamstrung oxen and killed the men of the city out of pure self-will. But notice carefully, Jacob doesn't actually curse the sons themselves. He says, "Cursed be their anger so fierce, and their fury so cruel." Because of this dangerous, unchecked temper, their destiny is to be divided and scattered. And historically, this played out exactly as he said. The tribe of Levi became the priestly tribe, scattered all throughout the land without a continuous territory of their own. And the tribe of Simeon was entirely absorbed into the territory of Judah.
Now, what's really fascinating here is Judah. The whole tone of the chapter completely shifts when we get to him. His very name comes from the Hebrew word for praise, and Jacob says, "Judah, your brothers will praise you, your hand will be on the neck of your enemies." Jacob compares him to a powerful resting lion's cub. He paints this vivid picture of Judah returning from the prey, crouching and lying down with such immense authority that absolutely no one dares to wake him. This is the imagery of pure, confident, unshakable strength. It establishes Judah as the true leader and monarch among his brothers. Building right on that leadership, Jacob delivers a crucial prophecy. He declares, "The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he comes to whom it belongs." The Hebrew word for scepter here is shevet, making it undeniably clear that ultimate leadership, the right to rule and kingship, is firmly and permanently planted in the tribe of Judah. Then, Jacob describes a time of extreme peace and incredible agricultural wealth for Judah's descendants. He describes a land so rich that a person would just carelessly tether their donkey to a precious, choice grapevine. Wine will be so unbelievably plentiful that you'd literally wash your garments in it. His eyes will be darker than wine and his teeth whiter than milk. It's just a beautiful poetic picture of utter abundance and prosperity.
Section 3. The middle 6 sons. Let's see how this momentum builds.
We're moving into a rapid sequence of distinct destinies and vivid animal imagery here. First, Zebulun gets a destiny that is completely outward-facing. Jacob says he will dwell by the seashore and become a haven for ships, with his border extending all the way towards Sidon. Geographically, this means Zebulun's territory is going to be deeply connected to the Mediterranean coast and the major Phoenician port city of Sidon, making them a wealthy hub of maritime commerce. Issachar, on the other hand, is compared to a strong, sturdy donkey lying down between the saddlebags. When Issachar sees that his resting place is good and the land is pleasant, he actually chooses the life of agricultural stability. He willingly bends his shoulder to the burden, submitting to forced labor and the hard, steady work of farming. Now we get to Dan. His name is derived from the Hebrew word meaning he provides justice, or he judges. Jacob says Dan is going to step up to judge and govern his people as a true equal tribe of Israel. The imagery here is really striking. Dan isn't described as a roaring lion like Judah. Instead, he's a clever, highly strategic serpent by the road. Think about it. A small snake can bite a massive horse's heels, causing the rider to tumble right backward. It speaks to fighting effectively and strategically, using guerrilla tactics against much larger enemies. Right after this intense military imagery, Jacob inserts a brief, highly personal prayer. I look for your deliverance, O Lord. Why? Well, maybe it's the sheer exhaustion of giving this prophecy, or perhaps Jacob foresees the fierce, desperate battles the tribe of Dan is going to face, realizing they'll desperately need the Almighty's salvation.
Next, we move to Gad, Asher, and Naphtali. The text for Gad is actually a brilliant Hebrew wordplay on his name. He's going to be attacked by a band of raiders, but he'll immediately fight back and attack them right at their heels. He is incredibly resilient. Asher gets a blessing of pure agricultural prosperity. His land is going to produce rich food and yield royal delicacies. Historically, Asher's territory was famously abundant in olive trees, producing vast quantities of premium olive oil that was literally fit for a king's table. Finally, we have Naphtali, who is described poetically as a doe set free, bearing beautiful fawns, or in another translation, uttering beautiful words. This is often associated with swift messengers bringing good news, or a tribe known for its beautiful poetic praise.
Section 4. Joseph and Benjamin. We now reach Rachel's 2 sons.
These two receive very specific, very vivid blessings from their father. Joseph's blessing, in particular, is the longest and most detailed of all the brothers, standing right alongside Judah's in its incredible importance. Jacob gives Joseph a breathtakingly beautiful, poetic blessing. He describes him as a fruitful vine near a spring. Because Joseph is planted right by an endless source of fresh water, he has constant nourishment. He grows so wildly abundant that his branches can't even be contained, they climb right over the wall. This perfectly reflects Joseph's actual life. His influence, his wisdom, and his provision expanded far beyond the boundaries of his own family, reaching over the wall to save the entire nation of Egypt and, by extension, the surrounding world.
Jacob then deeply acknowledges the immense, unfair suffering Joseph had to go through. He says, with bitterness archers attacked him, they shot at him with hostility. In the simple meaning of the text, these bitter archers represent the people who relentlessly attack Joseph's character and his life. First, his own brothers who betrayed him and threw him into a pit, and later Potiphar's wife and those who threw him into the Egyptian dungeon. Yet, despite being the target of all this hostility, Joseph didn't break. His own bow remained steady, and his arms were supple. How? The text gives us the explicit answer. He was empowered by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. He was protected by the shepherd, the rock of Israel. Joseph's resilience wasn't just human strength, you see. It was direct, divine support. Because of that unwavering steadfastness, Jacob just heaps incredible, overwhelming blessings on Joseph. He calls upon the Almighty, El Shaddai, who will bless Joseph with the dew and rain from the heavens above, and the springs of water from the deep below. He also gives him the blessings of the breast and womb. In the straightforward biblical context, this means immense agricultural fertility and massive population growth for Joseph's 2 sons, the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh.
Jacob states that these blessings, which are even greater than the blessings of his own ancestors, will rest securely on the head of Joseph, honoring him forever as the prince, the one separated from his brothers.
Finally, we come to Benjamin, the youngest son. Benjamin is described not as a peaceful child, but as a fierce, ravenous wolf. In the morning, he devours the prey, and in the evening, he divides the plunder. This highlights a surprisingly martial, aggressive destiny for the tribe of the youngest brother. They will be fiercely successful in defending their territory and securing spoils. And if we look at later biblical history, this perfectly aligns with the tribe of Benjamin. They produced mighty warriors and even Israel's very first monarch, King Saul, who was famous for his military conquests. With Benjamin, Jacob concludes the individual prophecies, giving every single one of the 12 tribes the exact blessing appropriate to them.
Section 5. Jacob's death and burial. Having spoken to and blessed all 12 tribes, his prophetic work is done.
Jacob now turns his attention to his final, highly specific burial instructions. This is a matter of profound importance to him. He issues strict, detailed commands regarding his remains, insisting he must absolutely not be buried in Egypt. He commands them, "I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers." He then lays out precise legal and geographical details. He must be carried back to Canaan, specifically to the cave in the field of Machpelah. He reminds them that this is the field bought from Ephron the Hittite. Why is that detail so vital? Because that cave and field was the very first and only piece of land that Abraham officially and legally purchased in Canaan. It is their permanent legal anchor to the promised land.
Jacob wants to rest exactly where his family line is established. He wants to be placed right in that cave, and he lists exactly who is waiting there, weaving together this powerful chain of generations. Listen to this lineup. Abraham and Sarah are there. Isaac and Rebekah are there. And he notes, "There I buried Leah." By demanding to be placed alongside the patriarchs and matriarchs, Jacob is making a definitive statement of faith. He is physically gathering himself to his family in the land God promised them, and he is completely, utterly rejecting a permanent resting place in the exile of Egypt.
So, with his final exact instructions delivered, the text says Jacob finishes speaking to his sons, simply draws his feet up into the bed, and breathes his last. It's a remarkably peaceful, dignified, and controlled passing. He finishes exactly what he set out to accomplish. Furthermore, the text notes that he was gathered to his people. In biblical literature, this phrasing implies so much more than just a physical burial in a family tomb. It strongly points to a deeply held belief in an afterlife, a spiritual continuation where his soul is reunited with the ancestors who went before him.
Section 6. Lessons and Chapter Recap. Let's step back for a moment and look at the big picture.
We've walked through the text step by step, and it really leaves us with some powerful reflections on human behavior. What practical life lessons can we learn from this chapter? First, we see a crystal clear contrast between self-control and impulsivity. Think about it. How often do we let our raw impulses dictate our future, just like Reuben did? Yielding to unchecked instability literally cost Reuben his standing as the firstborn. Simeon and Levi allowed their cruel, unchecked anger to govern them, and it cost them a unified territory. Our actions today have incredibly long-term consequences. On the flip side, look at Judah, whose grounded confidence and willingness to lead earned him the eternal scepter. And look at Joseph. Despite facing bitter hostility, false accusations, and imprisonment, his bow remained steady. He remained supple and steadfast because he relied entirely on the rock of Israel. The profound lesson here is that mastering our impulses, acting with integrity, and remaining steadfast under intense pressure is the true path to lasting generational blessings. Jacob's final words are a powerful reminder that the character we build in our darkest moments ultimately shapes the legacy we leave behind for centuries. Looking at these 12 sons, the question is, which brother's path will you choose to follow in your own life? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.